Hello, friends, family, music lovers, and Beethoven aficionados. My name is Michael James Taylor. I am a piano teacher, composer, and I adore Beethoven. In this series, I'm going to help you explore the Beethoven piano sonatas. Hopefully, 20-minute sessions, that's the idea. So, this will be the first, podcast, whatever you want to call it. I'm really excited. First of all, let's talk about the Beethoven piano sonatas because they are really, really important. Anyway, in this series, what I would like to do is educate all of you on the sonatas, why they're important, and why people still talk about them today. Which pianists to stay away from, and which are my personal favorites in terms of interpretation. I'll also help you with technique in exploring and playing the wonderful 32 sonatas of Beethoven. I have to practice. I have not touched the piano in weeks. Anyway, so let's get down to basics. Again, my name is Michael Taylor. Beethoven is my favorite composer, and I'm here to tell you all about Beethoven piano sonatas. Okay, let's talk about what a sonata is. Sonata has to follow a basic form, okay? Sonata has an exposition, development, recapitulation, and a coda, okay? Beethoven wrote 32 sonatas, and most of them use sonata form. Most of his sonatas are 3 movements, some of them are 2 movements, and some are even 4 movements long. Here's a contrast to sonata form. The first movement of the Moonlight Sonata is not actually a sonata. That's right. This movement does not follow sonata form. There is no exposition, there's no development, there's no recapitulation, there's no coda. However, the third movement, which I can't play right now, the third movement follows sonata form. Okay, so let's break down sonata form. Sonata form: exposition, development, coda, recapitulation. Okay? Here's some of Sonata number 27 in E minor. I'm going to play a little bit of the exposition. I'm going to play a little bit of the development, some of the recapitulation, and I'll play the coda. Let's remember this idea. Okay, I'm going to play some of the exposition one more time, and then I'm going to play the development. Please remember this idea and this idea. Later on in the movement, we get our development section. I should practice. I haven't done it in so long. I gotta get the music. Hold on. See, this is all part of the tutorial. I'm still learning along with you. Yes, lots and lots and lots of pages of music. Well, he wrote 32 sonatas, so really impressive. And never repeated himself, by the way. Alright, let me get to this development section of this great sonata. We heard this idea. And we also heard this at the beginning of the movement. So later on in the same movement, this is what happens typically in a development section. The composer takes original ideas and develops them. Later on, we have our recapitulation, which says that the main idea has to come back. Recapitulation. Exposition, development, now recapitulation. And finally, a sonata is going to end with a coda. This is a rather short coda, but it's beautiful. So Beethoven wrote 32 sonatas that very much follow the same form of the one I was just playing. By the way, the one I'm just playing is the E minor sonata, number 27. Let's also think about Beethoven as a person for a moment, shall we? When we think of Beethoven, 9 times out of 10, this is what everyone thinks of. This sort of rustling, agitated, angry sort of a fellow. I don't think that's true. In a contrast, first of all, this is Symphony number 5 in C minor, which also follows sonata form. Again, sonata form is extremely important. Beethoven wrote 32 sonatas for the piano. Anyway, when we think of Beethoven, we think of a very aggressive composer. We think of a melancholy composer. Now, usually when we think of melancholy music, we are thinking in terms of minor, songs that are in minor. So C minor, G minor, E minor, A minor. This is not a sonata, this is a bagatelle, by the way. Kind of like a prelude. Again, so when we think of Beethoven, we think of these sorts of things. But the contrasting thing about Beethoven is that out of all 32 piano sonatas, only 9 of them are minor. Out of all 32 sonatas written for the piano by the great Beethoven, only 9 of them are in minor. I'm going to name them now. Number 1 in F minor. Number 5 in C minor. Number 8 in C minor. Also known as the Pathetique Sonata. Okay. Number 14, the alleged Moonlight Sonata. I call it alleged because he never gave it that name. Number 17 in D minor. Very stormy pieces. Number 27 in E minor, the one I just played earlier. Number 19 in G minor, and the final sonata. I don't remember how to play it. The final sonata is also in C minor, okay? So, oh, and I forgot one. Hello, the most super duper famous. That's the F minor sonata. That is the Appassionata sonata. But he only wrote 9 in minor. What I want to say to you today, my friends, is Beethoven was not an angry person. He was a gentle soul. And here's why. First of all, he had a great sense of humor. Let's quickly think about sonata number 16 in G major. Yes, Beethoven was a comical guy. He would write to his friends and he would write jokes all of the time, and he loved messing with his friends and playing jokes on them. That is very true of him as a person. When I say that Beethoven was a comical composer, let's think about this sonata real quick. I'm just going to play the first 2 chords of sonata number 16. Something wonderful happens in this sonata. Oh, of course, I need a binder clip. Hold on, people. Son of a gun. I need a bigger binder clip. This is where you have to break the binding of the book. Yeah, and get kind of angry with it so it stays open. Okay, so let's think about Beethoven's sense of humor. Now, that is not a traditional way to start a piece. The right hand is leading the left. And then it's bump, bump, bump. Traditionally is what we're expected to hear. But Beethoven says it catches us off guard. When I was little and I first listened to this sonata, I laughed. I said, I'm not supposed to laugh at classical music. Classical music, you have to have your nose up in the air and you have to wear those white gloves and the glasses and the whole... Not true, by the way. Beethoven was a comedian. He says it right there. How silly is that? It's such a silly way to start a piece of music. And then again, the right hand leads the left. And then he brings it down a half step, or rather a whole step. This is a very popular in when we hear this kind of music. And that music can be very comical, can it, when we think about a sea shanty or we think about the open west? square dancing. Beethoven was square dancing back in 1802, my friends. He is a gentle, comical composer. Here we go. Here's another example, and probably my favorite. I have not practiced in weeks. I was away for a while. So he really is a misunderstood composer, not an angry composer. The exact opposite. He's a happy composer. Now I'm going to go over pianists you should probably not listen to because I don't like their interpretation, because their interpretations suck. Okay. The first one on the list is William Kemp. I think he has the worst interpretation of Beethoven of all time. Next to William Kemp would be Vladimir Ashkenazy. After that would be Schnabel, and lastly would be Richter. They're awful for Beethoven. They misinterpreted everything in the 60s and 70s where everyone was like experimenting. I don't know, they're experimenting with sonatas, they're experimenting with drugs. Who knows what they were doing? They were not following Beethoven's rules. William Kemp plays the Moonlight Sonata like this. First of all, he's the snootiest pianist there is. I hate him. Yeah, that's a strong word. I said it. He plays the piano like this. He thinks his poop doesn't smell. Not true. One of the reasons is, first of all, the Moonlight Sonata is the most misinterpreted sonata out of all the 32 that he wrote. One of the reasons is the tempo. A lot of pianists during Kemp's time really. Poor Beethoven. Would you like to hear the correct tempo now? Isn't that better? Not only that, several pianists misinterpret the triplet. Yeah, there's a triplet throughout the entire sonata. Did you know that this is a triplet? How many notes am I playing? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So oftentimes these composers misinterpret the triplet and they turn it into a tuplet in this section. And I can't stand it. Would you like to hear how that's supposed to be interpreted? pianist that you should absolutely listen to when it comes to interpretation. Interestingly enough, William Kemp taught Eid el-Barat, and guess what? Eid el-Barat is a Turkish pianist and one of my absolute favorites because she plays all of the works by Rachmaninoff, all of the works by Franz Liszt, all of the works by Brahms, all of the works by Chopin, and all of the works by Beethoven, and she interprets them correctly. Andras Schiff is my favorite pianist for Beethoven. If you're not listening to Andras Schiff, you're not listening to you're not doing any justice to yourself or to the man and his music. You need to listen to Andras Schiff. That's first and foremost. The other two I would strongly suggest listening to, Rudolf Serkin and Alfred Brendel. They are my favorite interpreters of Beethoven. Next time, we will go over more about the difference between the major sonatas and the minor sonatas and why these are such an important backbone for Beethoven. Until then, remember, Beethoven is a gentle composer, not an angry one. Goodbye, my friends.